There's been some interesting feedback even today on our Discord about the race missions. So where do you guys stand with the race missions? What is your opinion on what CIG is doing with race missions right now, the future? Like where do you stand?
I think it's a good start. I mean, I'd love to see missions that have more than one lap. I mean, I know this is all brand new, so it makes sense to just do one lap for now, but definitely something to build upon. Quarterly tournaments, I know Nino mentioned that in the chat, and I think I read it somewhere about, I think it was one of the SCLs or ISCs where they talked about having live events, dynamic events happening in the verse. So something more alive would be super cool as far as race missions, not just a time trial, right, but actual events where people come together and race each other. That'd be super cool.
That was the SCL Shaq where they mentioned that. It was the mission dude that was talking. Forgive me, I don't remember who it was, but they mentioned the impromptu mission things, the dynamic missions. That was cool.
Yeah.
For me, it feels like a tier 0 implementation, right? It's kind of patched together, but it works, and that's fine, right? I'm just happy to have something in. This gives them something to build on. We know Star Citizen is always an iterative process with anything new they bring in.
Right.
It's just really cool to see that racing has a tier 0 start in the game. We're starting to see assets in. We're starting to see the baseline mission stuff, and I think it'll only improve over time.
Right, and something even as simple as hollow checkpoints, that's going to help the newer people who have never done racing, just knowing where to go next. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah.
And we see that at Skyscraper, and right now we see like the little blue diamond or whatever it is. So it's a start, but would love to see something more defined on all the tracks. And we saw some art, I think it was Yadar, that had some hollow checkpoints, which is super cool.
Yeah, so that's the thing. We know they are coming to Arena Commander, and then I guess the hope is that it comes to the live PU as well. Like it has to.
I'd be very surprised if it doesn't. They haven't committed to that, but I would be very surprised if they put in all that work and do awesome stuff like that and not bring it into live as well.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what I've said many times. I think for the tracks that we have now, well, okay, let me phrase this correctly. Look at Euterpe, Icebreaker. That is not a legit racetrack. It's an outpost. So it wouldn't make sense for there to be all these holograms that make it look like a racetrack. So they have to be careful. With ArcCorp, they've kind of done it anyway. And I guess the excuse is, well, it looks like ArcCorp holograms, so you can get away with it. But I think CIG should look at this like these checkpoints should become activated when you need them to be activated. And so they can be available to a pilot even in the craziest locations. Think about a track on another moon, which has no geometry around at all, but just holograms, right? To send you through canyons without anything other than holographic checkpoints. Well, they would look out of place. So they should be toggleable, either tied into a mission or some kind of racing suite, if I can be very demanding, but in some way you want to be able to say, okay, these things don't exist in the world all the time because we don't want racing to feel like it's this is not official racing, in the lore sense. So then give us a way to use the Mobiglass or our helmet projection or whatever to project these hologram checkpoints whenever they're needed, and some other civilian won't see them. I'll be racing through them, but they don't see them because they don't have them enabled. So you would get so much freedom then to make racetracks wherever you want. And hell, I want access to that tool, man. I want to build racetracks.
Me too.
I want to put checkpoints down, and if they are only visible to those that subscribe to the thing and toggle them on or off, well, you always say it, Ty, the sky is the limit. The space is the limit.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
It actually, also it brings more people to racing. It actually shows up this highlight, and also, it's right there in your Mobiglass, just like, any other missions. They're like this PI missions we did yesterday that we haven't checked. So it's also going to help with new players because coming from Star Citizen, when you get to Star Citizen the first time, what you do is check the Mobiglass. Where's the missions, right? People sometimes are looking for that, hold my hand. What do I do next? So I think that's a good point, you know, versus us where we're more emergent gameplay. Hey, this looked like it could be a good track and stuff, but yeah, definitely.
Underground racing.
Yes, let's do it. That'd be exciting.